Coming up, we discuss Test Track's imminent reopening at Epcot, the amazing experience at Geo-82, all that along with the latest news. From beautiful Claremont, Florida, you're listening to the Theme Park Land Podcast. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Theme Park Land Podcast, episode number 4 for the week of July 9th, 2025. I am your host, Matt Dobrovolsky, joined once again by my co-host, Matt Rogers.
Welcome back, everyone.
Glad to have you all back. Hope your 4th of July was amazing. Hopefully you had some good barbecue and you weren't one of my crazy neighbors that was shooting off fireworks well past midnight. Look, I'm old. You have all the rights to shoot off fireworks on 4th of July and New Year's Eve. Congratulations. You want to blow your money on that, go for it. But please don't shoot them off, like, after midnight. Some of us want to sleep.
Some of us are just old. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, look, I turned 33 in 2 weeks. Yes, I'm old. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that. I'm old. I get it. I'm like Walter Matthau and Dennis the Menace. I'll be like, you rotten kids, stop doing all your firework nonsense. And anyway, we're a theme park podcast, so let's hop on into the episode. There's a lot of news that I think we got to talk about this week. So I don't think we really have a true topic this week, other than at the end of the show, we're definitely going to be talking about the imminent reopening of Test Track, because both of us have gotten on Test Track. And I also want to talk about my amazing experience that I had at Geo-82, which is the new adults-only lounge that is open at Epcot.
And I'm sure anyone who remembers last week's episode might be wondering how the visit at Epic Universe went. We'll get to that later.
We're going to have a good talk about that, because there's some things to talk about with that. So, but let's head on into the news. The first thing in our news story is that Tom Sawyer's Island and the Liberty Bell Riverboat are now officially closed at the Magic Kingdom as we get ready for the construction for Cars, Piston Peak, and the Villains Land. Look, I could care less that this is closed. I don't know if you saw when it closed on Sunday. There was a crowd, but nothing like the crowds that we've seen for a lot of these closures.
I have mixed feelings on this because the Rivers of America, the Riverboat, Tom Sawyer Island, that was all kind of Walt's original vision for the Magic Kingdom parks. Even though he didn't see Magic Kingdom, it's still to this day a very integral part of Disneyland, right? So for that, I am a sucker for classic Disney, right? So I think it's just a very important piece of a Magic Kingdom park that Walt had a hand in. But
to that point too, head
moving
2,000 miles to the west and you can go to the better one.
Yeah. And the other thing is,
looking at
it 50 years after the park opened, right? Was it updated? No. Was it accessible for guests in like wheelchairs, for example?
Was
it
accessible
not really.
for people that don't even have claustrophobia? No. I remember going through those caves a few months ago, and I'm like, I don't have claustrophobia, but boy, am I getting it right now.
And it's just, maybe if some love would have been put in over the past 20 years, maybe it would have been different. But
I will say the only thing I'm going to miss is hearing the riverboat. Like hearing, the toot toots. That's going to be
it's kind of like that all immersive experience. Now, looking at other Disney parks that have opened, Disneyland Paris, their Tom Sawyer Island is non-existent. They moved it on the land, and Thunder Mountain Railroad is the island in the middle of the river, right? Shanghai, Hong Kong,
They don't have.
they don't have one. I think Hong Kong has like an interactive Tarzan treehouse on an island,
something like that.
But
Tokyo does have
you know,
Tom Sawyer Island.
they've proven they can build new Magic Kingdom parks without this specific thing.
Yeah.
So, just looking forward, I think if they're able to keep that kind of just cohesiveness, make it look good, keep the right ambiance, I think it will work, but only time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, also, too, the rivers should probably be drained within the coming days. And they'll start actual demolition within the coming weeks as well. So, a lot of construction is about to happen over there. I don't know if you know this. I just found out the other day who the lead Imagineer is for the Piston Peak project.
Who?
The same guy that did Fantasy Springs for Tokyo Disney Sea.
Okay, so if you give him a budget, this has
That's
really
what I'm
high
saying.
potential.
As long as you give him the proper him and his team the proper budget, we could see something really beautiful with this, and that's why I have the utmost faith now in this project. We've talked about this, I've always have the faith in Imagineering. They know how to do their job, because that is very evident out in Tokyo. The question is, are they going to be given the proper budget to do this stuff here in Orlando?
We will see, but I like that you said that person who did Fantasy Springs is in charge of this too.
That gives
so as long
me
as they have a
lot
budget,
of
we're
hope.
good.
That gives me a lot of hope
but
with this.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Time will tell. And, the other thing that we can start thinking about, too, is what are they going to do with the Liberty Bell?
It would not surprise me if they scrap it. I think
I could see them sending a lot of the parts over to the ferry boats.
I don't think... No, they're not really interchangeable to my knowledge.
Okay.
What I think is likely to happen, if it is not going to be scrapped, dismantled, whatever, I think what's likely to happen is maybe it ends up as a prop over by Fort Wilderness for a while.
Ooh. I like that idea.
But I wouldn't expect it to be there forever.
Yeah.
Because the structure of the boat itself will need maintenance periodically, so maybe it ends up as a prop for 10 years, then it kind of rots away and it's gone.
I know we have no place to put it over there, but wouldn't it be cool if we could put it in, like, Port Orleans?
I think it's too big.
Oh, yeah, way too big. And, there's no real good body of water there.
Well, getting it...
Oh, yeah,
transporting it is logistically more complicated than just floating it across the lagoon, because the Rivers of America is actually connected via canal to the Seven Seas Lagoon. So they actually
just bring it through Seven Seas to Bay Lake
on an irregular basis. They've actually done that because Central Shops for the Magic Kingdom watercraft is where they do a lot of heavy maintenance on that riverboat. Mm-hmm. So they've actually brought it through the canal several times, floated across Seven Seas Lagoon around Contemporary, where they store the ferry boats and dock them at night. So they move it across the lake on an irregular basis, but it's been done. So I think just because of that, they have the logistics in place. I think it's likely to end up as a prop somewhere on that lake.
Only time will tell. Only time will tell. All right, moving on to our second news story. Disney has announced the Eat to the Beat concert series that is coming back to Epcot this year for the Food and Wine Festival. Dining packages will be going on sale, I believe it's in 2 weeks or so. Or actually, no, I believe it's actually next week. Dining packages are ranging from $56 per adult all the way up to $99 an adult, and $21 per child all the way up to $49 per child, again based on participating restaurants. And those will only be offered Fridays through Mondays. New acts, along with some of your favorite classic acts, are returning this year. Not mentioning all of them, but just mentioning a few. Joey Fatone will be back August 29th through August 30th. Starship featuring Mickey Thomas will be back September 12th through September 14th. The Baha Men will be back October 3rd through the 4th. Hanson will be there October 17th through the 20th. Smash Mouth October 26th through the 27th. Big Bad Voodoo Daddy from October 31st through November 1st. David Archuleta, November 7th through November 8th. Jordan Sparks, November 9th through the 10th. Bowling for Soup, November 14th through the 15th. And closing out the concert series, the one that I am looking forward to the most, November 16th through the November 17th, The Beach Boys. I am over the moon and ecstatic for them coming, because more importantly, that potentially means John Stamos could be there with them. And I know you're just looking at me like, what is he saying right now?
No, the Beach Boys, getting them are pretty cool, because I don't think they've done
actually
the theme park vibe
back
before, have they?
I think they came many years ago, whether it was for the Eat to the Beat series or for the Garden Rocks concert, but they have come well in the past. But what I'm really hopeful for is that John Stamos will come in, because that could be really cool to see John Stamos performing with the Beach Boys in Disney World. That's going to be really amazing. If you want to go for that, be sure to grab your dining package, because that will sell out. That will sell out. Anyway, moving on to our next news story. One that I am extremely excited about. The new finale verse that Richard Sherman personally wrote before his passing is heading to It's a Small World in Disneyland next Thursday for the 70th anniversary of Disneyland, as well as the Magic Kingdom next Thursday as well. I am over the moon excited for this. We got to hear the new verse kind of performed by Richard to Bob Iger from a video footage at a tribute that they did for him at D23 last year. And it's a beautiful, beautiful verse. The new verse is, Mother Earth unites us in heart and mind, and the love we give makes us humankind. Through our vast, wondrous land, when we stand hand in hand, it's a small world after all. So that new verse will be woven in with the existing finale in both our small world here in Florida as well as Disneyland's in California. I'm very, very excited for this.
No, and this is great that, the last Sherman brother was able to give just one more gift before his passing.
Yep.
To have that lasting impact on an already legacy attraction.
Like, this is the last thing that he did. The last thing. And it's going to be memorialized forever in It's a Small World now. It makes me so happy.
No, it's really nice. And I just love, one of the things I love about Disney is, in most cases, Disney is able to recognize when they have a treasure of an attraction, a classic, and they keep doing little things to it, but the attraction just largely doesn't change. So It's a Small World, Thunder Mountain Railroad, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion. They never really change. They don't need to.
Well, I mean, obviously they've changed since the original, but they've added things in. I mean, hopefully our small world gets the Disney characters like Disneyland's.
But what I mean is, we're not looking at like a major retheme that happens. They just generally keep the ride the same, because it doesn't need to change. It's a classic. It's just like a classic movie. You can still watch Back to the Future. It's a classic movie.
Yeah. Those crazy diehards for Tom Sawyer Island are screaming right now, that's a classic too, man. Why do we get rid of that? Because nobody went there. Nobody went there.
The numbers don't lie.
Yeah, it's true. All right, before we offend more people out there. Another thing in regards to that, the digital finale of that new verse will be available anywhere you stream music, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you listen to your music, on July 17th. And a exclusive vinyl will be available on the Disney Music Emporium. And I believe that's available for pre-order right now. So I will probably be putting my order in now that I'm realizing that I haven't done that yet. Our last news story, and this is kind of hot off the presses. This was just announced literally like 2 hours ago. Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party will be returning to the Magic Kingdom once again this year. Select nights from November 7th through December 21st. Ticket prices will range $169 all the way up to $229 per person. Yeah, and this is before discounts. Honestly, it's gonna sell out.
Wait, but Jollywood, how much?
Jollywood, I was just about to get to that, because Jollywood Nights is once again back. First off, also too, with the Christmas party, no changes, nothing really new with it. Same old Christmas party that we've had for the last few years. Same entertainment, same ride overlays, same treats, all that kind of stuff. Jollywood Nights, though, there will be 13 nights this year, so I think that's up because they had 10, I think, last year. It will be November 8th, November 15th, 17th, 22nd, 24th, 29th, and December 1st, 6th, 10th, 13th, 17th, 20th, and 22nd of December. Those ticket prices will range from $159 all the way up to $199. Again, before any discounts, annual pass holders and Disney Vacation Club should be receiving $10 off per ticket, and cast members, I believe, can receive $20 off a ticket. I'm not exactly sure on
Matt,
those numbers.
Did I make this up in my head? I think you kind of talked about Jollywood last year. It seemed like it was more geared towards adults, whereas the 100%. Christmas party at Magic Kingdom was geared more towards families and kids.
Absolutely.
So
100%. I will die on that hill saying, if you are a family, go to Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. If you are an adult wanting an adult experience, go to Jollywood Nights. 100%. I will say that forever.
And I think this is the second year they've done Jollywood, right?
This will be the third.
Has time flown by that fast?
Yep. Time is flying by. We're getting old.
Yikes. It's just another year closer to death. Anyways.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Let's be a little bit morbid there, Matt.
But no, so Jollywood, I've heard nothing but really good things last year.
Katie came with us last year. You didn't because you were working. Did you go the first year?
No, but also the first year they only had a handful of nights, and
correct.
It wasn't ironed out from what I understood. Well, the first night was really bad. The very
first night it was not ironed out, but when we went a couple of weeks later, it was flawless. They did a great job, and even last year was even more of a better job.
I wonder how much overtime they authorized for that. To fix that to have a huge turnaround like that and be like, okay, our first night, we know what we need to do. Let's not wait until next year. Let's just fix it immediately. I love that response.
Well, the biggest thing with this event is the amount of characters that you can see, the amount of rare characters that you can see. I mean, yes, you can meet Duffy the Disney Bear at this event, which is incredible. Also, too, there's a couple of things new this year. Miguel from Coco will be in the courtyard at Rock and Roller Coaster. There's also more time in the park as well. The event, I think, ran from like 9 to 1 last year, the event itself. Now the event is running from 7:30 to 12:30, and you can get into the park at 5:30. So a lot more time in the park, which is great for those people that don't have annual passes or regular day tickets that could already have been in the park.
So these are more like Magic Kingdom's Christmas party hours.
Correct. So it's getting better. It's getting better to that point. The new Little Mermaid and Villain show will be running during the event. There will be new food available at Backlot Express, as well as new merchandise, of course. Holidays in Hollywood starring Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy will be back. And What's This? A Nightmare Before Christmas sing-along will also be returning. Also, too, the random ice skating show Glisten that they had in front of the Chinese theater will be back again. Honestly, I thought this was going to be there for last year, and that would be it. This was a very, very weird show that they did. It's random ice skating on the stage that's right there in front of the Chinese theater, and I don't know. I don't know if it's because it's 70 degrees at the time and I'm seeing ice skaters, I just didn't really care for this thing.
So this reminds me when I worked at SeaWorld 10 years ago now. When I was working there, it was also during their Christmas event, and they have ice skating show. At the time, they had an ice skating show in the big jet ski stadium, and it's weird seeing ice skating when you're sweating outside.
Correct.
I have to be honest. It's not as magical as being like, oh, it's cold. There's snow on the ground.
It's the blizzard.
There's the
beach
ice.
Syndrome. It's the blizzard beach syndrome where you're going to a water park wanting to cool off, but you're seeing snow, and it's like, I'm cooling off because I'm at a water park, but I feel also colder because I see snow.
Well, the story of Blizzard Beach, though, makes sense because the story of Blizzard Beach is a snowstorm just came down on Florida, and now it's hot again, so all the snow's melting, which has created all the water slides.
Yeah.
So, I think that kind of works, but when there's no explanation for an ice rink, it doesn't make sense.
I moved away from the snow for a reason. I don't want to see it anymore. That's why I'd rather go to Typhoon Lagoon.
Just tired of shoveling it.
Amen. I mean, I had to do that with my father for many, many years.
For those of you who have never truly been in a blizzard before, and you have 12, 18 inches of snow coming, and you think, oh, just get a snowblower. No, you have to go out in the middle of the night and snowblow the first round, and then you have to do it again later, because it's just so much worse if you let it all pile up.
Especially if you're like me that had a corner lot, and when the snowplow would come through and push all the snow right back up onto your sidewalk there. Yeah, that was never fun. That's why we're down here in Florida now. Anyway, yes, Jollywood Nights are back, and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. Tickets go on sale for hotel guests July 16th, everyone else on July 22nd. My biggest tip for any of you that are trying to go to this event, unless you are trying to go to one of the last nights, the ones that are closer to Christmas, obviously, you do not need to buy first thing. I would say make sure that you try and buy your tickets probably in September at the latest. And if you're an annual pass holder or DVC, be sure you get your discount on that. Save a little bit of money on there. This way you can spend more money when you're at the party as well. So, anything else that you have, Matt?
News related?
Yeah.
No.
Anything that went on news-wise, or shall we just also jump right into your Epic Universe?
Let's talk about last week. And so we did not film a show last week. My in-laws were in town visiting from Texas and spending some time with them. So my father-in-law really wanted to see Epic Universe because he's very interested in knowing what his daughter and his son-in-law are doing in the theme park realm. Right, and it's a new park, and it's a gorgeous park. Matt agrees wholeheartedly. It's a gorgeous park, and even if you're not really going to ride the rides, it's a beautiful park to see. And the two shows there are really neat, and the entertainment's really cool. So, it was my wife and I, and then my brother-in-law and my father-in-law. We all bought tickets, and we went on Wednesday. Now, my father-in-law, it's a little bit of background. He, about 3 or 4 years ago, he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And he went through about 1.5 years of chemo, is now cancer-free. Thank God, that worked out very well. But the treatment, as anybody who has dealt with cancer before, or had a family member that's dealt with it, the chemo treatment does things to you. You're never quite the same. In his case, he developed some neuropathy, some difficulty with finger movements, foot movement, which has led to some challenges with mobility. So he now regularly uses either a walker, a cane, or for long hauls, an electric wheelchair. He's also suddenly less mobile than he was years ago, so he's also kind of larger, and in the past year or so, he's gained a little bit of weight, but he's not too large, right? But it is enough to be a concern for some rides at Universal. So a little bit of background about my father-in-law, which it is what it is, and it's fine, right? But he really wanted to see the park, and my brother-in-law really wanted to see Nintendo. Okay? And because my brother-in-law has grown up on it, my wife has grown up on Nintendo, and they wanted to see the world of Nintendo. So we get there, and we go to Nintendo right away. We get a return time, because we're on the assistance pass. We get a return time for Donkey Kong, right? 100-minute wait, so it's some time to kill doing the interactive things in the land. My brother-in-law got a power-up band. Had a really, really great time doing the interactive things. We did the Bowser Jr. Showdown Challenge thing.
Such a fun experience.
It's top tier. It's like you do all these interactive things in the land, and then there's this challenge, and it's just next level interaction in the virtual world with gaming. It's really, really cool. And then my wife and my brother-in-law went and did Bowser's Challenge because they had some express passes. So then after that, it was time to go ride Donkey Kong. Now, looking at my father-in-law, I've been on Donkey Kong before. It looked like he might be able to get into the restraint and get a ride on it. So we, when we go up to the ride to return, I asked them if their secondary platform is available. Now, Donkey Kong is kind of like Forbidden Journey, and if you don't know this is neat. So it's a continuous loading station. You have the conveyor belt, and the vehicles keep moving, and they unload and load in the same place. Just before the station, where the conveyor belt is, and we'll call the conveyor belt, they call it primary station. Just before that, there's a secondary station where there's a transfer track, and the ride vehicle literally gets pulled over into its own separate room where it's stationary. It's walled off, can't be seen by the regular platform.
It's literally just like Disneyland's Space Mountain.
Yes, it's the exact same thing, except it's walled off and in a different room.
Oh, so privacy too,
yes.
Which is nice.
So we asked at the greeter if their secondary platform was operational, because sometimes it isn't. In that case, they'll just stop the load belt, and the person who needs secondary will just load to primary. But they said secondary was operating. So we go through the line, and my father-in-law said that he would like to try. And the reason is we weren't sure if he was going to be able to get it or not, but we can go to secondary. It's in our own private room. He can see if he can get in or not. If he can't, no big deal. Wait off to the side, right? Nobody knows. It's not a big show. It's just, it doesn't interrupt anything. So we go to secondary. They pull a vehicle over. We get in the vehicle. My father-in-law is able to get in. So, now some of you might be wondering, why didn't we try the test seat outside? It's not always an accurate representation of the vehicle. It's an accurate representation of the seat, but not necessarily the step into the vehicle.
And with the transfer area, you've got time.
Yes.
You've got time to check the restraint, see if he fits, and more importantly, like we just said, the privacy.
Right.
The privacy of that as well.
So he gets in the vehicle, he pulls down the lap bar, and the person loading us at secondary gets ready to dispatch it. And I just kind of confirm, and I say to the team member there, the loader, I said, hey, is his lap bar down far enough? Is it in the minimum position required?
Were you sitting right next to him? Or
yes, I was sitting right next to him.
Okay, gotcha.
But also due to the angle of the seats, I'm not actually able to see the indicator.
Makes sense.
So the team member said, oh, yeah, he's good. He's got it. And I go, oh, sweet. Easy. So we get dispatched, and we're rolling. So we get dispatched onto the main track. We have to progress through the main primary load area. And in this case, they're going to check the restraints again, because they have to check every single vehicle coming through primary, even if it comes through secondary, right?
Make sure that nothing changed from when it...
Right, even though the vehicles, I do not believe they unlock at the unload area if it's coming from secondary. But, so we get to the team member at primary on the load belt, goes to recheck the restraints, and I see the look on his face. Now, I was attractions operations for 7 years, so you can see when something's off, right? So he looks kind of confused because he knows the vehicle just came out of secondary. he stops the platform. He then informs us that the lap bar on my father-in-law is not down far enough. In fact, it's not even close. And my first thought is, well, why did the team member at secondary dispatch the vehicle? So we need to unload at this point because we cannot progress into the ride because the lap bar is not down far enough. So this results in the team members having to bring my father-in-law's powered wheelchair manually out from secondary onto the load belt to unload. This is in front of the last 10 minutes of the Donkey Kong queue. There's easily 200 people standing there watching this. Yep. Unless you have been in this particular situation, you cannot understand the humiliation this caused. The embarrassment, the humiliation of having to get rejected in front of 200 people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that simple. You can't understand it unless you've been in this situation. And it is a big deal. And it's something that should not have happened in the first place because that's why the secondary platform exists.
Right.
And
all of this could have been solved if that first team member was doing his job properly.
Yes. And
said, he doesn't fit. Let's go ahead and swap him out right here.
That was the entire point of us going to secondary. So my wife is very upset. I'm very upset. All four of us are really upset and kind of almost in tears at this point.
When you were texting me all this, I was at Epcot. I was upset for all y'all.
It was ridiculous. So bad. So the team members tried giving us a few express passes. Just to be quite honest, you cannot recover this kind of embarrassment or humiliation.
Absolutely.
There is nothing you can do to recover it. You cannot go back in time.
There's no potential for a recovery in this situation. You have to own up to the mistake. And look, I mean, I get it. Universal shouldn't be telling you about the outcome of what's happening with this, but they should be assuring you in a few weeks that, the team member was dealt with, and they will make sure that this will never happen.
So I refused the express passes from the team member, and I, maybe not so nicely, asked for a supervisor. Maybe I demanded a supervisor, right?
Were you being a Karen? But rightfully so.
I was probably the most level-headed Karen you could possibly talk to. So supervisor shows up, explained what happened, and she apologizes, ensures that the team member will be it would be handled. She actually said the rest of her day was going to be handling the situation. She gave us some express passes for seating for the shows, something my father-in-law could definitely do, right? And she also ended up comping us lunch for a quick service for all four of us, which was, I was impressed. From an attraction supervisor, they were able to do that. And I think when it comes to guest service, Universal is definitely exceptional in the way they want to recover or are able to recover certain situations or try to. So my father-in-law had stated at that point he just wanted to leave, and I don't blame him because the mood is gone for the day.
Absolutely.
The mood is just gone. My brother-in-law, he saw most of Nintendo, but he's upset at this. My wife and I are really upset, and the mood's just gone. So we get the gift card for lunch. We go and we have lunch at the Oak and Star, which, I mean, it's very good theme park barbecue, and we enjoyed that meal, and we appreciated that meal.
That's good.
We used that to try and cool down a little bit, right? Both figuratively and actually cool down because it was really hot out. And just kind of try and use that as like a reset for the day, right? So we were talking after the meal, at the tail end of the meal, and the mood's just not there, right? We're kind of done. We're over it. We've only been in the park 2.5 hours. So we decide collectively we're going to go to guest services and see if they can do something for us because we didn't really want to be there anymore. And we certainly hadn't gotten a value out of a one-day ticket.
Oh, absolutely.
So we go to guest services. Because generally, if you are going to get any kind of compensation in terms of a one-day ticket or a comp visit to come back or a refund, you have to do it early. The more you are in the park, the more difficult it is to justify compensation, right?
Sure.
The more of the burger you eat, the harder it is to get compensation for that. So we go to guest services, and again, my father-in-law is in a powered wheelchair. We open the door for him, and then I'm thinking, I go, wait, why am I holding this door open for him? There's no motor on the door. If you are by yourself,
is the door not either wide open for accessibility wise, or why is it not an automatic door?
Right, and it is at Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida, but it isn't in this brand new park that opened this year. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So we check in, and the guest services representative calls her name, and I go up to talk to her, right? Because, I have the theme park experience. I think I'm the more level-headed person to discuss this with, right? So I go up and I talk to her, and she asked me, what can we do? How's it going? And I said, well, piggybacking off of the issue we had on Donkey Kong, my father-in-law is in a powered wheelchair, and he can't even get in the building by himself. And she actually said that she was on the accessibility team for that park. And
really?
The accessibility team is it's a group of team members, and they just try to think from the perspective of guests with disabilities, or typically these team members will have family members with disabilities, or even themselves will have challenges, right? So they really go through the park, and they try and make things better for the guests with disabilities. So her first response to that was, it's something they're working on, they know, and she was actually talking about how there were team members that worked in that building that have mobility challenges. They can't even get in and out of the building easily. And it just blows my mind that we have a theme park opening in 2025 that's not accessible. And then I thought about it for another minute. Oak and Star Tavern didn't have any power doors. Somebody else notified me later that Family Services and First Aid, where somebody with these mobility issues would go, they don't have power doors either. It just blows my mind. Universal do better. So we talked to guest services about the day, and I said to her, I was like, my wife and I, we would love to come back to this park. We will come back to this park because we live here. But my brother-in-law and my father-in-law, they're from Texas. They're not coming back.
Did your mother-in-law go too?
No.
It was just the two of them?
Yes.
Okay. So it was... Because I was also picturing that... I was like, was it 5 of you guys somehow going on to Donkey Kong, or was it just the 4? So, okay.
So, we... But I said, I think it would be a really good gesture if Universal just gave them their money back for their one-day tickets. Because they're from Texas. They're not coming back.
So, all in all, they gave the money back to... Your father-in-law and your brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Which is very, very nice of them.
Absolutely,
Not expected, but very, very nice of them.
We got the refund, and then my wife and I got comp tickets that don't expire with no blockout dates. We can go back to Epic Universe. Okay. So I will give Universal credit from the guest services perspective. They made this situation as right as they could. Yeah. But again, you cannot recover that embarrassment and humiliation of that situation that happened. It's done.
The moral of the story is this. Always double, triple, quadruple check. If both of us have been attractions cast members in our past. You always need to triple check everything. You need to just make sure that everything is fine, because if it isn't, then you could be running into this type of a situation.
Well, and the other thing...
I mean, we can't speak on behalf of what Universal is doing to that team member, but I can't imagine.
Well, I just think about
what's
that.
Going on.
Okay, it's not just because normally in a circumstance where somebody has a safety violation, it's, hey, you have this safety violation. Here's your reprimand, and if it's your first one, it's a written warning. Depending on the severity of it, it might be a suspension if it's a really bad one, and that's it, right? This is, hey, here's your safety violation. Also, here's how much money it costs the company. Because you got to think, refunding 4 one-day tickets, $200 gift card for lunch, and then the express passes for the shows.
Technically, it wasn't refunding 4; it was refunding 2.
It's the same.
They're basically still giving
but
you
comping
your
is the
ticket.
same. Comping is the same, basically.
True.
It can be looked at
point.
as the same. But like, if it's not just, oh, you messed up, here's a reprimand. It's like, you messed up, here's a reprimand. Also, this is how much money it just cost the company.
Yeah.
So, again, take your time, do your job, and also just try and, as a whole, especially with Universal when they're designing these facilities, think about people with guests who have disabilities. It's, how is somebody in a wheelchair going to get around? And if you don't know, ask these people what they need.
But also, too, that same goes for creative designing these ride vehicles.
Exactly.
You
can tell.
We've talked about it.
You can
before.
tell. Nobody in the design process for this park uses a wheelchair.
But we've talked about it before, where it seems to you, at least, because you are on the heavier side. For gosh sake, you can get on every single attraction at Epic Universe. At one point, you couldn't do that at Universal Studios or Islands.
No.
So they're getting better, but they could still also do better when it comes to those restraints.
When it comes to mobility, accessibility, though, they have so much work to do. The fact that they built this new park in 2025 and people in a wheelchair by themselves cannot get around, I understand why Nintendo is mostly stairs and has all those different levels, because that's how the games kind of are visually. I think they probably could have done a few things better. But even just in the basic areas of Celestial Park, they have no power doors. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
But that was our visit to Epic on Wednesday. We will go back. We will give it another chance, of course.
You should come back with me, the wife, and our in-laws in September.
But it's...
More importantly, it'll probably be a little bit easier to kind of deal with the park, too.
Hopefully. But my wife and I are really big advocates for guests with disabilities because of my father-in-law, but also my mother-in-law is blind and mostly deaf. She can hear most things through hearing aids, but it's hard for her because of background noise. So that's why she wasn't with us, because she would have gotten really overstimulated really fast, and it wouldn't have been enjoyable for her.
Yeah, because she would have walked into Nintendo not being able to unfortunately see anything, but also just hearing like all the hustle and bustle that's going on in there.
Yeah. So... but we'll give it another chance, of course. Yeah. I haven't written off the park yet. I just wish they have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. It's true. And I think that's why I'm giving it until September to officially go back. We've talked about on the podcast, on the first episode, where, we praise Epic Universe for how amazing it is. But there are some things that they still need to work out, and we know they will. We know Universal will.
Absolutely.
So. Anyway, let's move on. I am going to be talking about my amazing experience that I had. Unfortunately, it was the same day that you were having your issues over at Epic. I had an amazing experience over at the new Geo-82, which is the adults-only lounge now open at Epcot, right up in the same building, technically as Spaceship Earth. This new lounge is exclusively for adults 21 and up, so you're not going to see any kids in there. You won't even see any young adults in there unless they're of legal age, which is very, very nice. That was one of the biggest perks that I saw in there, was the fact that there's no kids running around and like causing a disruption to the general atmosphere. But the first thing I want to state with this place is that it is very small. It is, I think we figured it's only about like 50 seats in this entire lounge. This did used to be the old sponsor lounge. So when Spaceship Earth was sponsored by Siemens, when it was sponsored by AT&T, that was the corporate lounge in this space. So it's not that big of a space to be dealing with. And they also don't have a full kitchen. So they do have some food items on there. Not a lot. But The food items that we did have, though, amazing. We tried a mushroom flatbread. It was delicious. I had a tuna with this whiskey-infused soy sauce.
Ooh.
It was really, really good. I didn't think to ever kind of mix whiskey with soy sauce, so that was a new thing for me. But the winner, and I dubbed this the winner because we had to order another one because it was so good. It was a crab cake. It was a simple crab cake. I'm going to show you the photo because I don't know if you saw it.
See, I have high crab cake standards because
I
I'm from
know
Maryland, and Chesapeake Bay crab cakes are next level.
So here's the crab cake that you can see. Obviously, this isn't video, so I can't show you guys. But this is a flawless crab cake that had like almost it's kind of like Parmesan crust on it. But more importantly, you see the black spots on there? That's caviar.
Caviar.
They put caviar on this thing. You
don't want my opinion, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. They're trying too hard. A crab cake, simpler the better.
But this was so delicious. It was just packed with flavor. I would order 50 of these, but the problem is it's like $25. So it's very expensive. And I get it. It's got caviar on it. So of course it's going to be expensive. We tried a couple of drinks. I had an old-fashioned up there. Arguably the best old-fashioned I've ever had in my life. It was very smooth. It was high-quality bourbon that they were using in there. They were using a Woodford Reserve, but it's a Woodford Reserve that is exclusive to Geo-82, which is awesome. There's 3 different bourbons that they use up there that are exclusive just to Geo-82. Honestly, I'd go back to this place in a heartbeat. The views that you also get out here, amazing. Like
it overlooks the new World Celebration, doesn't it?
Right. It looks gorgeous out there.
Oh, that's really pretty.
Yeah. It's got a fantastic view. When the fireworks are going off every night, one of the tables that we were at, basically, but also all those tables that are right up against the window, those would be part of the fireworks package that you can get. It's like $180 per person, plus tax and gratuity, so it's not a pretty price point there. And you're getting like high-quality champagne, desserts, snacks, stuff like that. I'm sure some people say it's worth it. I can't justify paying that much for it, considering that you could just get a regular reservation up there and just be further back and still see the exact same fireworks.
That's weird. That would be like charging more for the seats at Ohana right next to the window.
Correct.
And they don't do that.
Correct.
Not that I want to give them any ideas.
Yeah, but please don't.
But
or like if you went to Narcoossee's too. You know, you could be like right up against the window.
I wonder if that's a thing where they're going to back off of that though for the package, or they're going to make it the entire room has that package.
Yeah.
Because
you know where another place I could see it? California Grill. California Grill would be a interesting place for them to do this. Where if you're right up there against the window, you can have a different experience than everyone else in the restaurant, and you're right up against the window for the fireworks.
That'll be interesting to see if that pricing model evolves a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know how successful this fireworks package is for them. Because, like I was saying, to me, you could just get a normal table a little bit further back and have the same experience that I just had.
Is it like tiered seating too?
No.
It's all one level?
Seating. It's all one level.
Okay.
So, and they dim the lights. The chandeliers are still on. But those kind of like blend in with the fireworks. I've seen these photos where when the fireworks are going off, it looks like there's more going off because you've got the chandeliers kind of reflecting off of it. These are also not your typical chandeliers. They're like geodesic a little bit. Obviously, geo. So it kind of blends in with the shape of a firework. So that looks gorgeous.
I wonder if they got them from IKEA.
Possibly.
Disney gets a lot of things from IKEA.
Or maybe Pier 1 Imports. I don't know. Are they still around? I don't even know.
I don't know.
And they also pipe the music in, too.
Oh, good.
So that's...
I mean, they better. It's firework viewing in a theme park.
Of course. Great view. I would totally do. Just overall, I would do this place again in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. It was 3 of us. We ended up dropping a little over $200 for everything. I did not feel gypped out of that money though, because my biggest thing is I don't mind paying more if the quality is there. That's one of the reasons why if I want a good margarita when I go to Mexico in Epcot, I go inside to La Cava del Tequila. I don't go outside and get one of the overpriced, low-quality, frozen margaritas that are like, I think they're like $14 now, but you can go inside and pay like $5 more and have a much better quality tequila in the margarita inside at the cave. This is the same thing that I'm saying about Geo. I could get an old-fashioned at any bar, anywhere across property, and pay probably 15-ish bucks. No, I paid $10 more for this old-fashioned that is extremely unique and is perfect in my opinion. Perfect. Again, it's okay to pay more if the quality is there. And the quality was most certainly there.
Good.
I cannot wait to go back. Just, it's so hard to get a reservation. It's so hard to get a reservation.
Hopefully
for this
it
place.
performs well.
I think it is. I really think it is. People are going. People are praising it just like me. And more importantly, you won't see any kids there. You won't see any kids, which is fantastic.
Well, that's also in the, I just want to point out, that's in the World Celebration, that new area they just opened last year, I think it was. Or was it the year before?
I think we're 2 years into that now. So
something I've noticed about that, the pavement is not holding up. I noticed that when we went on Thursday.
You're mainly talking about the lights.
Not even the lights, just some of the pavers there. They're already starting to come up, and I really hope they're able to not just maintain it, but just find a long-term solution for that, because I feel like it shouldn't look that way already. Yeah. If you really start looking, you see a lot of cracks and stuff.
Yeah. Obviously, I cannot comment. I
Right.
cannot comment on those kind of things. All I can comment for you on is my amazing experience that I had at that lounge. Cannot wait to go back up there, and I cannot wait to have that old-fashioned again. That old-fashioned was delicious.
Anyways, isn't there some like new big ride that they just refurbed over there?
Perfect segue there, sir. That is a perfect segue into the imminent reopening that we have of Test Track. Now, Test Track doesn't reopen until July 22nd, but both of us have had the opportunity now. I had the opportunity a little bit earlier than Matt for some reasons.
Guys, they did good.
They really did. They really did a fantastic job with this.
I want to bring something full circle. You said about giving Imagineering a budget. We talked about that earlier, what they can do. It is clear to me, the theme park nut, they didn't have a huge budget with this. But what they were able to pull off with that budget looks so good.
Remember, too, since this is sponsored by General Motors, I do believe General Motors does basically put up the majority of the money for this. Mainly because I think they wanted this refurb. Disney didn't want it. I think
2.0 was... It needed change.
2.0 was garbage. But it seems to me that General Motors always wants something new with that pavilion every 15 years. World of Motion opened with the park on October 1st, 1982. It closed in 95 to switch over to Test Track. Test Track 1.0 lasted until about 2012 when it switched over to 2.0, and now here we are in 2025 with getting Test Track 3.0. Look, they did a fantastic job with this. We're going to keep all the spoilers out of this review, mainly because it hasn't opened yet. And to me, I want, hopefully, the public to see this stuff properly with their own eyes first. Now, if you're someone that can't wait, head on over to darthvader92.com and you can see the full 4K video that I have up of it.
So I will say...
It does look gorgeous still.
I will say a big win with this attraction. Lots of indoor air-conditioned queue.
100%. Because one of the things that they did do with this is they removed the, in my opinion, tacky design studios that they had, where you would design your car. That is all replaced with more queue and more exhibits for the queue. So they did a good job with making sure that you have enough indoor space now. I want to say that you could easily hold maybe about 45 minutes to 60 minutes now fully inside the building.
Depending on
lightning
lane.
To go outside.
Depending on lightning lane usage.
True.
So there's one thing that I didn't understand without going really in any details of the ride. I didn't understand our purpose at this attraction. Whereas I understood the purpose and motivation for it with 1.0 and 2.0, I don't really get that throughout the queue experience.
The purpose is, this is them showing you off the future of transportation. Something that, again, this is a nod to World of Motion, where World of Motion was talking about the past, present, and future of transportation, starting all the way back to the invention of the wheel, moving into present day with automobiles, and then going into the future with potential flying cars and stuff like that. What General Motors has done now is they are showing us the future of vehicles and even the future of electric vehicles too. One of the things that they talk about on the ride, I won't show you where it kind of is or anything, but they talk to you about how wireless charging for an electric vehicle on the roads is in the future. This is actually fascinating because this is actually currently happening just down the road over here from where we are right now. The connector road that they're building between US 27 and the 429, I believe it's State Road 514. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. That is going to be an expressway connecting those two roads, but one lane on each of the directions is going to be dedicated to charging electric vehicles, just like how they're talking about in Test Track. That's really cool because I'm getting to see them talking about this in the future. And it's something that they're building right now. It's something that they're trying to make sure that it works. So then this way we can have this in our everyday lives.
And I think that's really neat. It's a push to have an attraction based on the future stay relevant too. Because it's going to be, from the guest perspective, if you start seeing these things in the attraction and then they start seeing them implemented in real life, that's what Tomorrowland and Future World was all about originally.
Correct. And to a point, that's why it's kind of somewhat failed a little bit, because we, while we don't have flying cars or anything like that yet, they've talked about space exploration and stuff like that. Like, we have rockets going up into space almost every other week now off of Cape Canaveral. So it's that notion of the future of transportation and showing you that this is stuff that we are doing right now. And it's
definitely
amazing.
Very much in the spirit of Epcot.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to hop back on my accessibility train real quick, because the day after Epic, we went and did Test Track with my father-in-law and my brother-in-law. And I just want to give a shout-out to the Test Track cast members, because the way they handle guests with mobility needs and wheelchair loading and unloading, they are fantastic. It was amazing how
coming
sensitive they are.
Test Track cast member, yes, we did
it
a
was
great job.
It was so good and just reassuring. And we sent the proper communications to guest relations at Disney regarding those cast members so that they get recognized. But the way Test Track does it, they load you. If you're in a wheelchair, they load you at the dispatch area where they check the seat belts, so the vehicle's a little bit higher and it's an easier transfer. You still got to step over the side of the vehicle, but the process is a little bit easier. They tell you to take your time. It's really nice.
Yeah. No, I remember doing that when I worked there, and there were people like you that would always applaud us because it's having that sense of privacy to a point, and just being able to be away from, having to do this at load and unload. And, in this case, if you don't make it, then you just go off on your merry way right there.
Now, they were going to let us ride again when we pulled up to the dispatch area because there wasn't anybody else waiting. And we were like, oh, yeah, we'll go again. And then, bang, ride stop.
Oh.
It broke.
Yeah, Test Track.
So then we had to exit anyways. But it was really good timing. And they have done really good with the budget they have. This gives me confidence in projects for Walt Disney World again.
It gives me confidence in the future of Epcot.
What did you think about the post-show?
What post-show? Because, in all honesty, look.
Barren Wasteland.
The first couple of times I got to ride it, we did not get to see the post-show. But
it's non-existent.
When the last time I went, there's just no cars in there yet.
So they have cars in the showcase bays, but in the middle of the floor, there's nothing. And I'm not sure if that's where they're going to have cars, but I was really, really hoping there would be some interactive thing, like an original post-show spirit.
Yeah.
But there's nothing there right now. Now, these are just previews, so maybe there's something coming. I hope there is. But there's
That's
nothing...
why I don't want to really, talk about that too much, because I think there's still something coming that we haven't seen yet.
But there needs to be...
give them the benefit of the doubt.
There needs to be that thing that gives you that lasting impression of the message we want to send through this attraction.
I really hope what they could do one day is bring back what the post-show kind of looked like with World of Motion. World of Motions, they had, cars and everything like that there. But then they also had this audio animatronic show that I can't tell you for the life of me what it was, but it was like a little show that ran like every 5 or 10 minutes. There was something else in there too, but it was like little shows in conjunction with the exhibits in the post show. And that's the thing. Test Track is still that unique attraction that still kind of lives in Epcot's past because of its sponsorship with General Motors. Future World was always about showcasing the latest ideas and innovations from these companies. You had Universe of Energy being sponsored by ExxonMobil. You had Wonders of Life being sponsored by MetLife. Horizons was sponsored by General Electric. Heck, even Journey into Imagination was sponsored by Kodak. Living Seas was United Technologies. So it was all these companies coming in to showcase their latest products with these amazing attractions that Walt Disney Imagineering was creating. All of that is kind of thrown out the window with anything else that's in Epcot except for Test Track. Test Track still has this beginning exhibit thing with the ride, and then this post-show where you would get to see the latest innovations from General Motors specifically. Test Track is the only attraction that's still out there that is sponsored by a company.
Now, you know what I would love for them to do is take inspiration from what we just did with Test Track, right? Let's apply it to the Imagination Pavilion first, and then let's go through a Spaceship Earth, and then the seas, or the land and then the seas. Let's bring them into the 21st century truly, right? And then once we've done that, let's do something with the Body Wars Pavilion. And my friends, if we can do all of those projects, that will easily get Epcot through the next 10 years, and that would be an exciting decade for Epcot's redevelopment.
There's still 3 things that I think Epcot needs to do, and that's, like you said, fix up, do something with Wonders of Life Pavilion. It is just sitting there, empty. You need to do something with Journey into Imagination. It's a shadow of its former self. It needs to be updated. If you're asking an Epcot purist, bring back the original ride. You can do it. The original ride is still there. It just needs renovation.
I mean, look at what you did with Test Track. If you take the kind of things and the inspiration you've done with Test Track, right, and you combine it with the original concept of Journey into Imagination, man, that would be a great concept for a ride.
Correct. And still having Figment, obviously, in there.
Yeah,
and maybe
but I mean, if you just combine what
too.
you did with Test Track and then the original concept, the Imagination Pavilion, using the effects that you've done in Test Track, it will be an incredible attraction.
And then the third thing would be fix up Spaceship Earth. Because it was supposed to get a refurb, but thanks to COVID, that didn't happen. Now, granted, Spaceship Earth is closing next month for a good couple of month refurb that will last them until the end of the year. We are not expecting anything huge to be brought about. I think anything
short of a year-long closure, in my experience from what I've seen, is normally just ride system related and just fixing some things in the show, but mostly ride system related.
Unless you're Tower of Terror switching over to Guardians of the Galaxy and California Adventure, because that was done in 5 months, which I think is fantastic. But anyway, next time you guys come down to Walt Disney World, and more importantly Epcot, be sure to check out Test Track. They did such a great job with this. Next week they are doing annual pass holder previews on select days. There will be a virtual queue in place for that, just like how they did it with Guardians and Tiana's. You're going to need a park reservation for the 7 a.m. virtual queue drop. And the 1 o'clock virtual queue drop, as long as you are in park, you will be able to participate in that. Since it's just for annual pass holders, I can't see it being that problematic with trying to get a virtual queue, but then again, who knows?
Do we know if there's going to be virtual queue when it opens?
No.
Good.
Just standby, Lightning Lane, as well as the single rider line. Test Track will also be heading over to the multi-pass. It will not be a single pass. That will still be reserved for Guardians of the Galaxy. Test Track will be joining the Tier 1 group along with Frozen and Ratatouille. And Soarin' will be moving over to Tier 2. So if you are purchasing multi-pass for the day for Lightning Lanes, you can get Test Track as your Tier 1. And then you can get Soarin' and another attraction in your Tier 2. Which I think that's terrific as well. So, yeah, definitely check out Test Track once it reopens on July 22nd. With that being said, I think that's kind of it for the show today.
I think that's a good wrap up. Yeah.
Be sure to join us again next week. Don't really know what we're going to be talking about next week.
I don't know. So here's a fun fact: we just completely freestyled this episode.
Yeah, we just had so much like news stuff, and I know Matt wanted to give his 2 cents on the experience at Epic Universe, and we definitely wanted to talk about Test Track there. So we just kind of freeballed it with that. Next week, I don't know what we're going to be talking about, but the following week, tentatively right now, because we have it booked, we are celebrating my upcoming 33rd birthday. Yes, I feel old.
Halfway to 66.
God, don't remind me. Oh, good Lord. We are celebrating it at my favorite Disney resort, which is Old Key West. And we might be recording our show for that week from Old Key West. So we'll probably talk about that more next week if we actually affirm those details. But that would be kind of cool to just sit out on the patio and do our show from Old Key West.
Yeah, you might be able to hear some lady screaming at her kid from outside.
Or you're going to be hearing the golfers, because you've never really been to Old Key West, so we're on a golf course.
Okay.
Yeah.
This could be interesting.
Yeah. No, I think you're going to like Old Key West. So, guys, that'll about wrap it up. Thank you again so much for joining us. Again, the show is only possible with your listening and be sure to share the show out and get the word going about this show. We hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back with you again next time with another episode of the Theme Park Land podcast.
See you next time, everyone.
Have a great week, everyone.